Madam Speaker, Honourable Leader of Opposition, members of this Honourable House, before I specifically speak on His Excellency's address, I wish to in Parliament, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of all the Honourable members, thank the Fijian rugby team for their sterling performance at Twickenham on the weekend. Madam Speaker, while they may not have won the game, they most certainly won the hearts and minds of not just all Fijians, but also many rugby fans outside of Fiji. The UK Telegraph, referring to the Fijian team, said, and I quote, "We must be wary of underestimating how genuine a force they are," unquote. The sports-oriented social media has gone euphoric about our performance, and of course theories are abound. Some likening referee Pepper as the reincarnation of Paddy O'Brien. Notwithstanding referee decisions and video referees, we are in a position only to get better from. We wish our team the best for the game against Australia this Wednesday. I'm sure there's no conflicts of interest here. And I'm sure when the Honourable Prime Minister addresses us tomorrow morning, he will give us a deeper insight. But, Madam Speaker, as His Excellency our President said in his address, Fiji can win the World Cup. Madam Speaker, I rise today to thank His Excellency the President not only for his forceful and eloquent address of 14 September, but for a career of service to the nation. His Excellency has always answered his country's call, and his leadership and example as a man of principle have guided us through those years of transition and hope. Madam Speaker, many nations face turning points in their histories, critical moments at which they must choose between two paths, often one of progress, modernity and enlightenment, and another of fear, being insular and regression. At that moment, some nations have been fortunate enough to have leaders who have been a pillar to successful progression. Fiji was also at a crossroads at the time His Excellency assumed the presidency. Would it continue to exist as a nation driven apart by separation, discrimination and privilege only for some? Or would it come together as one nation, one people, with full equality and opportunity for all? At that time, His Excellency came forward to show us that a man of principle can be above politics, even in an intensely political time. He has been a lodestar of our progress, keeping us mindful and accountable to the principles we all profess, always above politics. Madam Speaker, when His Excellency condemned the attempts by a small minority to set up an alternative state, he was not being partisan. He was being principled. When he said that those who use religious and ethnic arguments to justify attempts to rob the people of their God-given right to choose their government must be and will be subjected to the full force of the law, he was not being partisan. He was being principled. And when he called on all honourable members of this House to support democracy and not give comfort to those who wish to subvert the democratic process, he was not being partisan. He was being principled again. He reminded us, all of us, the solemn oaths we have sworn to protect and defend democracy, and of the sacred and unbreakable trust we have with our Creator and the Fijian people to keep our word. Madam Speaker, this appeal to principle comes naturally to a man who has lived a life of service and compassion, a man who served his country as a senior military officer and a diplomat, a man who has visited nearly every secondary school in the country, 175 in all, to educate youth about HIV and AIDS, a man who has courageously embraced people who have been traditionally shunned or ignored, AIDS sufferers, gays, lesbians, and transgender individuals, the disabled and the poor. He has validated and confirmed them all in their worth and in their humanity, and he has welcomed them to the core of the Fijian society. This is a man who possesses both nobility and the common touch, and is equally comfortable in the presence of royalty when the most humble individual. Finally, Madam Speaker, His Excellency has transformed the role of the President of the Republic. Where once the presidency seemed reserved and distant, it is now fully engaged with the people and very demanding. His Excellency had 360 public engagements all over Fiji in 2014, bringing government to nearly every town and village and making the statement that the President is indeed the servant of the people. In his address to this body, Madam Speaker, His Excellency reported Fiji's unprecedented economic growth and reminded us that building investor confidence in the economy must be every single leader's objective. He charged us to capitalize on our sustained growth over the last 3 years. This is how we create opportunity for our citizens, and he called for commitment from both sides of the aisle. As we all know, Madam Speaker, the Fijian economy grew by 5.3% in 2014, the first time since 2004 that the growth has exceeded 5%, and only the 7th time in the last 30 years. All experts expect the Fijian economy to show growth for the 6th consecutive year in 2015. Only since independence have we recorded such an unprecedented growth. In addition, this will be the 3rd consecutive year that the Fijian economy will grow above 4%. This has only happened once before in our history, from 1971 to 1973. Madam Speaker, given the revised figures of the economic growth for 2014, Fiji's debt to GDP ratio declined to 47.7% in 2014. This is roughly average for all nations of the world and well below the ratio of countries like Germany, Sri Lanka, United States, Japan, and a number of other small island developing states. If we exclude the US $81 million that is in the sinking fund, our debt to GDP ratio would be below 46% for 2014. Our medium-term target was to achieve a ratio of 45%, and we are strongly poised to achieve this target before the 2017 fiscal period. More importantly, from a debt management perspective, government intends to maintain an external to domestic debt mix of 30 to 70, plus or minus 5, a safeguard against foreign exchange risk exposure. But, Madam Speaker, we cannot understand debt in one dimension. Debt is a dynamic factor in the economy, meaning that it can have far-reaching effects depending on how it is used and managed. Some nations have abused debt, borrowing money to finance profligate spending, ill-thought projects or populist schemes without any tangible and sustained benefits. But many of the great countries that have created great economic capacity by developing the infrastructure have done so by borrowing to build for the future. Therefore, in talking about the economy and debating about the economy in a responsible manner, we need to remember, as His Excellency our President reminded us, that borrowing or acquiring debt is not necessarily a negative thing. Debt, if properly managed, is good if you borrow to build for and invest in the future. Conversely, maintaining a prudent level of debt will provide the fiscal buffer to borrow in times of crisis, such as unforeseen natural calamities. Our philosophy, Madam Speaker, has been to use debt to create growth, to finance the physical and social infrastructure improvements that create opportunities, expand the economy, and raise personal incomes. Debt for a nation is like debt for a small business or even a household. If it is taken on intelligently and with a careful plan, it can create wealth and it can create opportunities. So we need not fear debt as long as we control it. We need only fear the paralysis that comes from irrational or uninformed fear of credit or the politicization of debt. Madam Speaker, having said that, a discussion of debt cannot be one-dimensional. I would like to turn to another aspect of our economy that is working with the intelligent use of credit and the enactment of intelligent reforms to drive growth in our economy, to fuel the economy. We are proud to say that for the first time in our history, Fiji will record 3 consecutive years of investment levels above 25% of GDP. This fact, Madam Speaker, shows that reforms are having the desired results. Business confidence is strong because business leaders and lenders see that government policies have brought stability and continuity to Fiji. Private sector investments are now approximately 19% of GDP, and bank lending for investment purposes has grown by 76% so far this year, following on the heels of the double-digit growth over the past 3 years. Madam Speaker, construction is another important indicator of business confidence. and investment, and a harbinger of continued growth. In Fiji, domestic cement sales grew by 46% from January to July this year after strong growth in the past few years. In addition, I'm advised that the Reserve Bank of Fiji's Business Expectation Survey reveals that business confidence is at an all-time high, with almost 75% of large businesses planning to invest in plant and equipment in the next 12 months. Madam Speaker, all of this means two things to the Fijian people: jobs and opportunities. Growth and investment not only create wage and salary jobs, they create opportunities for new businesses. They invite new ideas and they inspire entrepreneurship even at the microfinance level. As the economy grows and becomes more dynamic, wage rise and the number of high-skilled jobs increases also. Madam Speaker, RBF's employment survey, which is based on job advertisements only in the Fiji Times, indicated that employment offers rose by 19.6% in the first 8 months of this year after growing by 18.4% last year. This is a record since RBF has been collecting data and an unmistakable indicator that the economy is growing well and creating jobs and opportunities. This is further supported by revenue from the PAYE tax, which has grown by 14.6% as of July 2015. All of that growth, Madam Speaker, might inspire fear of inflation, but the inflation rate at the end of 2014 was a very modest 0.1%. I am told that this was the lowest end-year inflation rate ever. The inflation rate as of the end of August was 1.3%. Obviously, low global commodity prices, particularly petroleum, are helping to keep inflation down. But the low rate also reflects proactive government policies such as the reduction in import duties, the establishment of free education, free medicine, free water, subsidy for electricity, and the rationalization of the tax rates. Madam Speaker, Fiji's foreign reserves are at an all-time high. We broke the $2 billion barrier a few weeks ago, and we currently hold around $2.04 billion, sufficient to cover more than 5 months of imports. This is an increase of more than $200 million from the end of 2014, and approximately 300% more than the $515 million in foreign reserves in 2006. If we include the foreign reserves held by FNPF, government and other entities, foreign reserves are approximately Fijian $2.7 billion. With inflation low and cash available, commercial bank interest lending rates have also been declining. This is good for business and a strong factor in encouraging investment. The RBF has supported this lending with commercial bank liquidity currently above $600 million. This has helped businesses and individuals to borrow at much lower rates than ever in our history. Currently, the weighted average lending rate is 5.8%, down from 8% at the end of 2006. Madam Speaker, we Fijians love our Pacific Island home and we love showing it off to our visitors. Visitors, of course, are responding to our invitation by visiting in record numbers. Last year, Fiji recorded 692,630 visitor arrivals, the most ever, and we have every reason to expect that growth trend to continue. Visitor arrivals are up by 8.4% from January to August of this year, and we will definitely set a new...
Order. I'd appreciate no interjections at this point. You will have your turn for debate later on. Please continue.
Visitor arrivals are up by 8.4% from January to August of this year, and we will definitely set a new record in tourist numbers in 2015. Earning from tourism will surpass $1.5 billion this year. Our citizens living overseas provide Fiji's second largest source of foreign exchange. Personal remittances reached a record Fijian $383 million in 2014 and stand at $284 million so far this year, 35% higher than for the same period in 2014. At this rate, Madam Speaker, we expect to set a new record in 2015 of around $450 million. Madam Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to recite these important facts and figures for this august House, for this august Parliament, because they mean good news for the people of Fiji. Yes, as a member of this House, we are proud of what our reforms and our management of the economy have produced. But I believe I speak for all the members of this government and all members of this House, regardless of party affiliation, in taking pride and pleasure in what lies ahead for the people of Fiji. That future will continue to unfold in a positive way if we keep our focus on three things that all truly great economies have: a commitment to equality of opportunity and equality before the law, a government that is chosen by the people and works for the good of all its citizens, and an economy that rewards hard work and encourages prudent risk. Madam Speaker, His Excellency the President has shown us how principle can guide a nation. Let us hold fast to those principles and continue on the enlightened path, the path that produces freedom, wealth and happiness for all Fijians. This, of course, Madam Speaker, requires hard work, as His Excellency noted. This is why government is committed to the civil service reform and procuring the services of those appointed on merit. This is why government is committed to expediting the reforms, because we cannot lose the current momentum. And His Excellency noted, our youth, our young people, who are the future of our country, they want stability, they want prosperity, they want progress, and they want access to amenities and services like young people all over the world. Therefore, Madam Speaker, it becomes incumbent upon us, as His Excellency stated, to think beyond our parochial interests and work together, to join together in this Parliament and outside to move our country forward. It becomes incumbent upon us to talk about our country and our economy in a responsible manner, not to malign it for short-term political gain or the newspaper headline. Of course, as His Excellency stated, and I quote, Madam Speaker, to debate by all means and wage a battle of ideas, because that is the function of Parliament, but to do so with civility, humility, and with national unity, national interest, and common good always at the forefront of your minds. And to do so with intellectual honesty, to know that an idea is better than yours, to know that an action or policy is going to be for the benefit of the country in the long term, and to still debunk them is also intellectual dishonesty. Without honesty and humility on all fronts, we will never progress as a nation, as leaders, and as individuals. Unquote, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, with those words of wisdom from a distinguished Fijian, a man who has served his country beyond the call of duty, I appeal to all members of this Parliament, and in particular the honourable members from the opposition, to work together with government for the betterment of our country and to serve all Fijians, since that is what we are here to do, Madam Speaker. I once again, Madam Speaker, thank His Excellency for his most gracious speech. Thank you.